Welcome back to Horn Takes, the best football and baseball talk destination on the web. This is From the Cheap Seats, the internet show all about Texas football. Joining me tonight in the cheap seats are Nash from Nash Talks Texas and Texas Clips, and the Ghost from Ghost and Friends. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Solid, buddy. Thanks for having us.
Recovered from the baseball game, Nash?
Oh,
The
yeah.
excitement?
I'm still. I mean, I still got the juices flowing just a little bit, but I mean, hey, yeah.
It was a fun game. It was a fun game to watch on the couch. I'm sure it was definitely a fun game to be there live. I am Sean Redfearn of the Horn Takes podcast. Make sure you follow all of us on X, on YouTube, subscribe, get notified so you don't miss any of our content. Jump in the chat with your questions, comments. We love to answer questions, love to answer comments. And you might win some tickets, man. I'm still trying to give away. I never thought it would be this hard to give away baseball tickets. And I get it. The weather wasn't great early on. So I think that probably had quite a bit to do with it. But now there's no excuse. It looks like the warm weather is back. How was it last night, Nash? Was it nice? Did it get cool?
What? I mean, I got it a little bit kind of on the cooler side, but weather was great.
Nice.
Outstanding. Wind was blowing out to the center field. So
great. Well, I brought you guys on tonight to have the great Texas running back debate, something that Texas fans have been doing, man, going back to like the early 2000s, I think, late 1990s probably. Who's the best running back at the University of Texas? Obviously, a long history of great running backs at the University of Texas, going all the way back to at least the 1960s, probably even before that. You had guys like Chris Gilbert, Roosevelt Leaks. Then you go into the Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams, Cedric Benson, Jamal Charles, Bijan Robinson, Donta Foreman. Just tons of outstanding running backs have played football at the University of Texas. Texas won the Doak Walker Award 5 times. That leads all universities in the Doak Walker Award. Ricky Williams won it twice. Cedric Benson, Donta Foreman, and Bijan Robinson have each won it once. My man Earl Campbell, he would have won it. They didn't start that award till 1990. So that explains why Mr. Earl Campbell is not on there. And then obviously you talk about the 2 Heisman Trophy winners at the University of Texas, Earl Campbell, Little Earl, Ricky Williams, each won the Heisman Trophy. And I think those are your 2 guys that you hear about most often when you have this debate with any Texas fans. Earl Campbell, Little Earl, Ricky Williams. What do you think about that discussion? We'll just get right into it. We're going to do kind of like a just back and forth. We'll argue about it because we might all have different takes.
Yeah,
go ahead, Nash. Let it rip.
Oh, here. What? You go first.
Somebody has to go first.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, for me personally, I'm big on what do my eyes see, and I was born in 1988. I saw very, very little of Earl Campbell, just highlights. And so obviously you know what he's done in the league, or what he did in the league, and how fortifying he was as an Oiler. And then to see what he did at Texas, I mean, one of my favorite Texas clips of all time is him running through the corner of the end zone and literally running through the chest of, I believe, what is a Rice Owl. Absolute brutality on the football field. And just something to get you really, really motivated, really, really hyped up. And so with that being said, man, for me, it was always, Ricky. The first time I ever watched Ricky play was in 1996. Attended several of those games there, and I was like, never going to see anything better than that, which was really silly. I was just a kid, though. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and lock in either player as my personal best, definitely not as my personal favorite running back at Texas. And I'll stop there and let Nash go in, and I'll bring up another couple names in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going best running back, it's like splitting hairs. I mean, it's like you're talking about, because when you even get to it, you're talking about having Cedric Benson probably 3rd or 4th in the pecking order, and Cedric is probably one of the better running backs, if not the best running back at every single most of the schools. I don't know. Like, I want to have a hot take, but you got to go Ricky Williams, right? He's like, he leads in so many statistical categories. And then also, like, look, no offense to Earl Campbell. This is just when he played football at Texas, and we weren't a passing team when he first came to Texas. Ricky Williams was more of a complete all around back as far as being able to catch the football as well. But there's just Ricky Williams is just a freak. Like there are just certain dudes that are just different than other people, and Ricky Williams is one of those guys. Like there's not many guys that you're going to be able to find that can go retire from football and then just join and play professionally just because they gotta make sure they don't have to pay a fine on a contract or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting that both of you guys are really high on Ricky Williams. I don't guess it's interesting that you're both high on Ricky Williams. What's interesting to me about this debate, I put a poll up on Twitter. I do this all the time. People are going to get sick of hearing me say that. I just like to put up polls. It's interesting to find out what people think. I put this on Longhorn Twitter. Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams, and I think Cedric Benson easily the third best. I don't think there's, and maybe you guys will sway my opinion, but just looking at what I've seen in my life watching Texas running backs, looking at career statistics and things like that, to me, it's like Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams up there, 1A, 1B, however, you fall in that discussion. And then I think a little bit further down, you got Cedric Benson. And I don't think there's anybody close to Cedric Benson when you talk about his ability to break tackles, his balance, his strength. He had not blazing speed, but pretty damn good speed. Cedric Benson didn't get caught a lot from behind once he got into the open field. So I think you put all that combination together and just what he did in his career at the University of Texas, to me, he's easily the third. But you look at this poll, I threw Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams, obviously, Cedric Benson. Then I said, vote and comment below. 1.7% voted for someone other than those three, but they didn't comment who it was. So I have no idea. It was this guy. It was Cord. Cord didn't put the doggone thing, like I said, in there. So I don't know. It is what it is.
I had a feeling we might have this moment, brother.
Okay. Fair enough.
Here's the thing. I'm disgusted by what I did. I absolutely am, because I could make a case for, in my opinion, you could make a case for four guys. If you really start to get deep and you start to look at scheme, and now Ricky Williams, Earl Campbell, defenses knew they were getting the rock every single time. Texas and Ricky, they had a couple of bad teams when he was there. They knew he was getting the football every single time. I think we had a 5-7 season with Ricky Williams in the backfield. Insane. But I love Cedric Benson. Okay, that's my guy. God bless him. That is just
Cedric Benson over Ricky Williams, though.
Not at all. That's not
okay.
What I'm
okay,
saying.
I'm just making sure.
No, sir. I'm gonna go play devil's advocate with our boy Cedric Benson. Okay,
Let's do it.
He never beat Oklahoma. It took him 4 years before he had a double-digit rush against Oklahoma. I love Cedric Benson. It stinks to say this. Please, no one mistake this. I'm just for the sake of the show and my friendship with these gentlemen. We got to play both sides here. Cedric struggled. So in third place, I'm going to slide up a guy that played on some not bad Texas offenses, played with a really good quarterback, but played in some bad schemes. It didn't have a lot at wide receiver outside of one player. But I am so high on Jamal Charles, especially in modern day college football. Out of the backfield, his ability to break the long. There's so many runs of Jamal Charles where he went completely untouched. You talk about the 200-plus yard fourth quarter against Nebraska. Go look at what he did against Oklahoma State in the year 2007. We're down 21 points going to the fourth quarter, and he has a monster run in that one. But once again, splitting hairs here. If it's my personal list, I would have Ricky 1, Earl 2, and probably Jamal 3.
I like Jamal Charles. I think Jamal Charles, one of the most talented running backs I've ever seen in football, period. And I think the debate is interesting because it depends on what you think is important. Are you going to go with the eye test? If you go with the eye test, Ricky Williams is number one for me. And I did see Earl Campbell play football, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I've seen Ricky Williams. I've seen Jamal Charles. I've seen Cedric Benson run. Ricky Williams, hands down to me, is the number one running back in University of Texas history. And I think what's interesting is you'll always have these guys that'll say, no, it's Earl Campbell. It's definitely Earl Campbell. And I love Earl Campbell. I think I mean, Earl Campbell won the Heisman Trophy the year I was born. Earl Campbell just trucked people, but also had really good speed. Just an absolute beast, man. Earl Campbell was 100%. But man, Ricky Williams just completely on a whole other level than Earl Campbell, in my opinion. And I think honestly, what this debate will boil down to is just your age and kind of the era you grew up in. I mean, like I said, this debate has been raging since probably probably when Ricky Williams won the Heisman, or at least when all the hype started for Ricky Williams to win the Heisman. You started seeing these conversations. Who's the better, Ricky Williams or Earl Campbell? And I think the older gentlemen would say, oh, no doubt, Earl Campbell, the greatest running back I've ever seen. And then, the people that were younger would say, I don't know, man, Ricky Williams looks pretty damn good. I used to always get in this debate way back in the day on message boards when message boards were hardly a thing. And I was always a Ricky guy. Ricky Williams, my favorite Texas Longhorn ever so far in my life. I grew up a Texas Longhorn fan, but Ricky Williams in the late 1990s was just like, wow. He really sort of just put me into crazy fan mode for the University of Texas. So I got to go with Ricky, but you'll always see this debate and you'll always see it's right around 50% for both Ricky and both Earl Campbell. And it's interesting that, guys like Cedric Benson, guys like Jamal Charles just will almost get no votes at all. And I think, I don't think there's a huge difference between a Cedric Benson and a Ricky Williams. If you look at everything, like everything. What are your thoughts on that? Like so the third and fourth place guys, is there another guy out there that could be in this third or fourth debate other than Cedric Benson and Jamal Charles? I mean, honestly, if you got a name, throw it out. Somebody said they had a hot take, throw it out.
Come on, Nash.
I mean, I'm gonna. This is again. I love Cedric, right? Like I feel bad saying like this is one of those things that you almost like want to bury, but you like somebody's got to get the shit. But I personally have Cedric fifth because of when we're talking, like if you're just talking about like best running back, all around back, right? Like the guy that is the best, that if you were to put them behind the best offensive line or whatever, you put everybody behind the same offensive line, they're going to finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this order. I love Jamal Charles too. Jamal Charles is my number 4. Bijan's my number 3.
I figured, yeah.
Bijan is such a special talent. I think that his freshman year, we were robbed from seeing just one of the best freshman seasons you'll ever see from a running back at the university, like not just at the University of Texas, but just in general. So thank you a lot for thanks a lot, Tom Harmon, for that one. But man, I like Bijan's just so special. It's hard for me to put him any lower than 3.
I would agree, man. I was gonna say I would have Benson at 5, slide Bijan up. I was gonna say, man, how impressive of a run did we have at tailback there for 20 years that we did? It took us 10, 15 minutes before we even talk about Bijan, who we saw just a couple of years ago in Burn Orange. And recency bias is such an easy thing to be guilty of at times.
Yeah,
and proud of us, But yeah, I'm with you. I think the combination of being able to have the power between the tackles, which obviously Bijan he did not in that category, would not be as probably as if we're doing Madden ratings, between the tackles, Ceddy B was bigger and better, between the tackles, no doubt. Moving piles, hard yards, but explosive plays, and then out of the backfield is where I would give the nod to Bijan, and that's why I have Jamal too. Hey man, I like to throw to the backside of the backfield. I'm a big fan of it. Not as much as we did last year, probably, but that's why with those skill sets, I if I'm drafting a team, I would say I would draft those two guys ahead of Cedric Benson. I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably depends on what kind of team you have. If you're like the Chiefs, if you're the Chiefs, yeah, I think a Jamal Charles, a Bijan Robinson is a better guy. If you're like the Baltimore Ravens or something, you got to go with Cedric Benson. You want to line up with your big guys and you want to just plow over people and you want to play in the mud and the cold and all that crazy stuff at the end of the season.
Derrick Henry, your point. Exactly. Derrick Henry,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to go with y'all Bijan in the top 3. I just can't do it. I mean, I love Bijan Robinson. I think he had a great career at the University of Texas. He's obviously doing great things in the NFL. I just can't. I just cannot. Before we go any further, I'm just going to read off some stats, and I'm not going to name any names with these stats because I think this will drive home some points that have already been made. So I'm just going to randomly start talking about one player, and then I'm going to randomly start talking about another player, and then we'll randomly start talking about another player. You guys will be able to guess who they are. Everybody will be able to guess who they are. But I think this exercise will put a lot of into the debate on 1 and 2. Just my opinion. We'll see. If you got an opinion out there, you're watching us on YouTube or you're watching us on X, go ahead and chat who you think. Chat your top 3 Texas running backs, and if you want to, throw your 4th and 5th in there as well. It's your world, boss. But let's check it out. You got running back number 1. Career yards, 5,540 career yards at the University of Texas, which is second on the all-time list. Single season yards, 1,834 was his best season. That's 4th on the all-time list. Then he put up a 1,360, which is 8th, 9th on the all-time list. Single game yards, 283, 6th on the all-time list. Career touchdowns, 64, 2nd on the all-time list. Single season touchdowns, he's in the top 10. He's in the top 5 twice. 21, which is 3rd, and 19, which is 4th. Single game touchdowns, 5, which is 3rd, and that's tied for 3rd. Tied for 2nd, actually, I think. Tied for 2nd most, but it's 3rd if you consider all, you consider someone did it multiple times.
Okay.
Doak Walker Awards, he won it once. That's a lot of numbers. And I'm sorry, like Jamal Charles, Bijan Robinson, not even. And by the way, this person is the only Texas running back to go for 1,000 in 4 straight seasons. All 4 seasons he was at the University of Texas.
True. Yeah, his numbers are.
Talking about Cedric Benson.
That's right. I don't know. I'm a big fan of production. I like the eye test. I mean, I get what you guys are saying with the eye test because I think, Ghost, you talked about the eye test and you said Ricky when we were talking about Ricky or Earl. And I can understand that. And I think if Jamal Charles faster than Cedric Benson. Bijan Robinson, I don't know, probably like the same speed, maybe a little bit faster than Ced. But man, the power. Like Cedric Benson could just go right over the top of you. Cedric Benson was like, what did they call him? Like little Earl? Like something like that. Because I think those 3 dudes were like the same type of guy. They would have people crying at the end of games. Like people did not want to tackle them anymore. They were done.
So I think we would have been. See, I think that you might kick me off the stream after I say.
No,
this.
I'm not gonna.
I think we would have been better off if we were in the era where guys are leaving after their junior year, if they have such good seasons, and Cedric Benson leaves and doesn't come back for 2004, because what would have happened is Mac Brown wouldn't have been able to go on his stupid ass shit. And all you had to do, son, was say, I'm not calling him son. He's old enough to be my great granddad, but Mac, all you had to do was say, hey, we'll let you compete for a spot. We'll let you compete. And we would have had Adrian Peterson. And this would all be put to rest. Adrian Peterson would be the best running back in Texas football history.
Hold on, man. Hold on. You don't think that Mac inviting him as an official visitor to watch us get shit pumped 65-13 in 2004 would have made a difference? Because he was there at that game. Like he was there.
Well, because I'm just gonna go off what he said. Because
fair enough,
he grew up dreaming being a Texas Longhorn fan. All these other things check out. He grew up going to spring games, walking out of the tunnel, envisioning himself playing for Texas. Hell, he probably was at that game going, I'm gonna save Texas. I'm gonna save y'all. And then he's saying, "Hey Mac," he said he had his heart broken in that moment, And then he goes
because Mac told him he wasn't going to be the starter,
which is ironic.
Cedric Benson's going to be the guy next year.
That's why he
well,
said,
he said we're gonna give Cedric his due. He's earned it. And what's really ironic is Adrian Peterson went and lost the starting job to some running back by the name of, I don't know, Tashard Choice. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of that guy, but Tashard Choice ended up getting injured, and then that allowed Adrian Peterson to get the starting job. But I don't know. So if we were, I just, that's always been in my head where if Mac had even said, hey, we'll let you compete for the starting job. I mean, we're bridging the gap of, like, you go straight from Ricky to Cedric to Adrian to Jamal. I mean, what a run that would have been.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, I mean, you could have had a run of Heisman trophies right there, like an extended run of Heisman trophies. You could have.
Sure,
yeah, nobody knows. Yeah, that's an interesting point, Nash. Like, if what is wrong if you're Mac Brown was saying, yeah, you can come in and compete for the job. Like, what did he gain by? I mean, he was brutally honest. I guess that's one thing you could say. If that's really what he thought, he's like, listen, I love you. I want you to come to Texas. I think you'll be a great running back here at Texas. But we got this guy named Cedric Benson. He's going to be the starting running back. So you stuck true to your guns if that's really what he thought. But I just don't know, man.
It's not even lying at that point. It's just coach speak.
You're right. It's not lying to say, hey, you're going to come in and compete.
There's no transfer portal. No portal to worry about. You don't have to worry about him getting mad and bouncing immediately. I mean, it's Adrian Peterson. He's only going to bust his butt and run real hard when he got the opportunity to. So,
yeah, man.
And I mean, hey, and then also not a bad backup if Cedric Benson is the starter.
Oh, absolutely. Not a bad backup at all.
And then also he wouldn't have been able to burn us. So works on two ends.
You're talking about a backfield that would have been Vince Young, Selvin Young, Adrian Peterson, and then 2005 would have been Jamal Charles instead of Selvin Young. Or no, Selvin was there in 05.
Selvin Young was still there, yeah.
You could run Wishbone. You could run
Ramon Taylor was in that backfield.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to throw the football ever.
Hey, Daryl would have been smiling at every single game. Daryl would have been, oh my God, what, Mac? If you throw a pass, I will get a campaign against you.
I mean, we could have ran split veer. We could have brought back all the old school concepts. Dang.
So fair enough. We've got a pretty lively debate about 3, 4, 5, and I don't think anybody's going to change anybody's minds. But check this out. This is where, like, again, I'll tell you what I was going to tell you earlier about Earl Campbell. I grew up. Oh, we didn't grow up there, but I was born in Houston, Texas. I lived there for the first 8 years of my life. Earl Campbell was with the Houston Oilers. You know how they said, there's that man mama, or there's that man daddy. Earl Campbell was that man. Like, I thought every black dude with a beard I saw was Earl Campbell. I remember this, like, asking constantly, is that Earl Campbell? Is that Earl Campbell? Is that Earl Campbell? And my parents would get so freaking, like, just tired of it. They're like, no, we're never going to see Earl Campbell, like, out and about. Like, you might see him at the games, but you're not going to see him out and about. So again, love Earl Campbell, but he is not as good as Ricky Williams. And I hope you guys out there can listen to these stats. And it just no evidence supports the fact that Earl Campbell, except nostalgia, is better than Ricky Williams. Check this out. And I will tell the names on this one. Earl Campbell, career yards, 4,443 career yards, which is third all time at the University of Texas. Single season, 1,744 yards, fifth all time at the University of Texas. Single game yards, he's not even in the top 10 of all Texas running backs, or all Texas runners, quarterbacks included. Career touchdowns, 43. That's third at the University of Texas. Single season touchdowns, 18. That's fifth at the University of Texas. Single game touchdowns, he's not in the top 6. And that's all they track. And it's just because you've got like 6, 5. A ton of Texas running backs have done 4. So the list would have been, 20 miles long. Right. Doak Walker Award, 0. Not his fault. They didn't start that award till 1990. He certainly would have won it the year he won the Heisman. Heisman Trophy won. Now listen to this stuff for Ricky Williams. 6,279 career yards, first. Single season, 2,124 yards, first. 1,883 yards, third. Single game yards, 350 first. 318 fourth, 259th, which is 10th. He did that twice at the University of Texas. Career touchdowns, 72. So 32 more touchdowns than Earl Campbell, which is obviously first. Single season touchdowns, he had 27, which is first one season, 25, which is second one season. Single game touchdowns, he had 6, which is first. He did that twice. He had 5, which is third. He did that twice. Won the Doak Walker twice. And I think I might be wrong on this. Somebody correct me if I am. He's the only 2-time Doak Walker Award winner, I believe. And then he won the Heisman Trophy. It's not even, if you took the names out of it and stacked those stats up somewhere, there's not a person on this planet that would say Earl Campbell is better than Ricky Williams. Not one. And if they did, they're a lunatic.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I think it's just going to come down to. I think I was just going to keep waiting until Cord starts talking, but I think it just comes down to who won. That like a lot of people saw Earl win a Heisman, and that was the first guy. That was the first guy to see win a Heisman, and they'll go on their deathbed that Earl's the best running back.
I think a lot of it also. Heisman. I was a few months old when Earl Campbell won the Heisman.
Good to see. There you go. I'm sure you know you didn't know it yet, but you were probably real excited when it happened. You know,
I was super excited.
Like an aura over you and stuff. You know, you knew right then.
Exactly.
I'll say that you know, with Earl, I think a lot of people will look at the pro career that he had and lump that into their opinion. And much like you said earlier, Sean, you know, it's all about perspective. If you're going on the eye test with all this and looking at potential, well, that's a completely different metric than if you're looking about what they did at the University of Texas. Cedric Benson was there for 4 years. Ricky Williams came back for a 4th year. Obviously won the Heisman, the Doak again. But yeah, well, I mean, like if Jamal Charles or a Bijan Robinson were to have come back for another year, would that potentially have changed your mind, or is Seti like pretty locked in firmly at number 3 for you?
No, I think, you know, if a Jamal Charles and a Bijan Robinson came, I think the other thing we got to factor in, obviously, if you're going to have this conversation, is Nash kind of hit on it. Bijan Robinson didn't play much his freshman year at all. Cedric Benson came in and he wasn't the guy at first, but it wasn't long before he was the guy.
Yeah. The thing that pushes Bijan Robinson over the edge for me is right now, like today, he could switch positions, go play wide receiver in the NFL today, and be a legit NFL wide receiver. He wouldn't be a superstar or anything like that immediately, but he is just that talented. He is a extremely good route runner. His hands are freaky. Like there's that catch from the Oklahoma game 2 years ago where I grabbed McElroy. He's like, the audacity of Quinn to even think about throwing that ball. Well,
I think the one he had against Iowa State was even better.
You tend to make some pretty wild throws.
Was that down a hash, Sean?
Yeah.
The Iowa State one? Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, the Iowa State one, that one stands out in my mind. Like, if you want to like point to him as a route runner, like Bijan, he was consistently getting separation. I mean, he's just, when you're talking about all around backs, like it's hard for me to put him lower than 3, and I mean I'm tempted to even put him at number 2.
Whoa.
I know, but I mean it's just, if you're talking about best all around back, if you were to put them all on one offense, right? They're all in the same offense. What their production is going to finish in the same, given the same circumstances, everything's the same, you know. In some control, you're not going to be able to get a controlled setting or anything like that with football. It'll never happen. But just in my mind, if you're doing some hypothetical world where this exists, Bijan's going to finish number 2 or 3.
There's no way I can put him at 2. You just can't. Like,
I'm not putting him at 2. I'm not putting him at 2, but
I'm saying I can't even think about it. Like, I can't. Those words can't even come out of my mouth. Like, I guess the way I look at it is if I have one play and I know something positive has got to happen on that one play, I don't even have a down and distance. I just know, like, my running back's got to get the ball. I'm giving the ball to Ricky Williams every time. there's no like. No, I mean, it's not even a debate because he can outrun you. He can run right over the top of you, and he can do that for 4 quarters and 30 carries like nothing happened. He did it all the time.
So I have a good question. Out of the probably, there's probably 10 running backs that get mentioned the most. If you had to you'd probably have to go because the running backs outside of Malcolm Brown, you could include Malcolm Brown in this. What running backs do you think are the what's the best running back that you think that doesn't really ever get mentioned is? Because for me, I would have to go Sean Mitchell.
Yeah,
I
Sean
never
Mitchell
hear his
was a
name
really good
mentioned.
one.
I never
Yeah.
hear his name
Hodges.
mentioned, and he's
Well, there was
good.
Sean Mitchell. Sean Mitchell played with Ricky Williams. He was before. He was on the.
And then Hodges right
he was
after.
with Priest Holmes and Ricky Williams, and then Hodges Mitchell was like in the like
Right
he was
after.
right after Ricky, right?
Yeah, I mean Ricky's here's the crazy thing about Ricky is his first year stats. This is where you cannot have him any lower than 1. Is because anything that you want to say about Bijan Robinson's freshman year, you can probably say about Ricky
he played
Williams
fullback.
because
He
Ricky
lined up at
Williams split
fullback.
touches with Sean Mitchell.
Yeah.
So I mean, Ricky Williams is just like that. That just goes to show how much more of a freak he is. But yeah, I mean, and then also you even go to another guy. That dude wasn't that bad either.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that we're talking about Priest Holmes and none of us talked about Priest Holmes. Priest Holmes.
I got Priest Holmes coming up. I got a Priest Holmes thing.
We'll do it. I mean, let's talk Priest Holmes. We're talking Priest Holmes, damn good running back at Texas.
I'll say as far as professional running backs go, I think he is probably the best one that we've had. I don't know. Maybe Jamal
Dang,
Charles.
Nash, you're arguing with
tough for me
yourself.
to say that, but it's look, Priest.
Hold on, man.
All I'll say is I saw this. I saw a really good YouTube channel, or not YouTube channel, but a really good YouTube video talking about the dominance that Priest Holmes saw with the dominance that we saw from Priest Holmes, and the only other running back that has had a 3-year stretch as good as Priest Holmes had, LaDainian Tomlinson. And it's just
we're talking
Priest
NFL,
Holmes.
right?
Priest Holmes is I don't know how Hollywood hasn't gotten a hold of his script yet because he's a guy in college that was really overshadowed by Bijan or not Bijan by Ricky Williams. And then he goes into the NFL and he's just some undrafted free agent that's just riding on the benches, has injuries, kind of, hamper his career early on. Kind of an afterthought. And then Dick Vermeil, just because he saw him in a bowl game and he's like, hey, that running back was damn good. Mm-hmm. And he basically bet his entire career on Priest Holmes, and that bet turned out pretty damn good.
Yeah.
They had a really nice stretch, and it's just, for me, he's one of the better stories. But not only that, but if you go and you actually look at the stats over just an actual stretch of their prime, I don't think a Texas running back ever had a better prime than Priest Holmes did.
He did have a good NFL career, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's fun to watch, man. I have a little trivia for you. I think I know the answer, so I mean, this hopefully it goes okay. Who did Benson take the starting role from when he took over as a freshman?
Oh, was it
who did who?
Who did
Cedric Benson when he took over the starting role? Who did he take over for? It's a gentleman that later did, if I'm not incorrect, he changed positions from tailback to fullback. And
number 37, right?
Because I
number 37 something
stats. Like I did like a deep dive on running back stats. That's how I knew the Sean Mitchell and Hodges.
So you know it, right?
I'm gonna be pissed because I feel. I mean, tell me if I'm. Is the name Ivan in it?
Yeah, if I'm correct, the answer is Ivan McWilliams. That's
right.
Number 26.
Ivan Williams,
the fullback, and may or may not have changed his number. I believe he was 26 tailback. Cedric took over. McWilliams moved to fullback and changed his number It might have been 37. I'm not sure. Will Matthews was 37 at one point.
Yeah. There was another guy though, I thought. But yeah, Ivan Williams, that's a name. That's another name. He was a good back.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have the bend that Cedric had, and then Cedric, was better in between the tackles. So I mean, it was
Sure.
kind of always, it was always easy to see. Everybody knew it was coming. We just had to.
Yeah. I mean, when it was like when
that-
Jamal Charles came in at the beginning of the 2005 season and started running, and everybody was just like, "Yeah, that dude's about to like take everybody's position."
I will go to my deathbed saying that Chris Warren could have been a top 5 back at the University of Texas, but Tom Herman just absolutely fucked him over. Excuse my language, but
Chris Warren, yeah.
I mean,
that's an interesting question, Nash.
Because here's the deal. I mean, I've never he has a pedigree for it, right? Chris Warren definitely dad checks the box for good running back trait genes. But 2, I mean, I've never seen a running back as powerful as him. And I mean, he that obviously that Texas Tech game stands out, but I mean, I watched him helicopter Anthony Wheeler in a spring game. Like Anthony Wheeler had a lock on the football, and Chris Warren was like, "Okay, we're not done with. No, we're going to keep on running." I mean, I hated the whole hot hand thing that they did because it never allowed running backs to get a feel for the game, and I feel like Chris Warren got screwed over by that. And then he went on and had an amazing preseason in the NFL. Got injured late in the NFL preseason and just didn't rehab back from that. With John, if y'all know the John Gruden clip, getting cut. We're gonna trim some fat around here, boys.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think I could ever put him with even at his highest ceiling inside the top 5. His potential. I don't know. We just had some really great backs. It's not even really a knock against him, but
yeah, it's definitely tough. And I think that's a good question. I've never considered that question, Nash. Like, who's the best one that nobody really talks about? There's a lot of those. That's a hard one. I think if you asked 10 different people that question, you might get 10 different answers.
Well, that's where you're going to get the controversial takes because everybody's just going to sit there and they're going to say Ricky and Earl Campbell.
Well, see, I don't think. Well, but I think it's just because it's obvious. I really wanted to argue about Ricky Williams and Earl Campbell, and y'all played right against me and said Ricky Williams like right off the jump and ruined like everything I had. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, most people are going to talk Ricky Williams, Earl Campbell, and I think, like, I mean. Man, I don't know. Like Nash, you're saying no. Ricky Williams is my number 1, and I think like Bijan or a guy like Jamal is 2 or 3. So you're putting Earl Campbell down like in the 4 or 5 territory, and that is bold, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong.
Look, I don't know.
You're not going to get that from a lot of Texas fans.
Well, he doesn't have near the numbers that you read off earlier about a Cedric Benson or about an Earl Campbell. He doesn't have those numbers. And Nash is talking on potential. So
Sure.
Like you said, it's all perspective. And so it's a really fun conversation, debate, argument, whatever you want to do that could just literally never end. I mean, it's all about what you want to do, but I think you're right. If it's about what they did on the field, Cedric, he's got to be cemented top 3 and probably will never be replaced. You know what I mean? And the only reason he's not higher is because he didn't win a Heisman. So, I mean, maybe in my opinion, but
no, I think you're probably right.
I mean, I'll say this: he's the only guy that we're talking about here that has 4 seasons of 1,000 yards.
Yeah,
the only guy.
He's the only guy that's ever done that at Texas ever.
Yep.
So, well, I think
there's a lot of argument to be made.
Yeah, I mean it's a great discussion. Again, I was hoping one of you guys would be Earl Campbell so I could smack y'all with stats, but it didn't happen. That's fine. I think we're all Ricky Williams. I think if we're talking Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams, I think all 3 of us are going to say Ricky Williams hands down better than Earl Campbell. I think that's totally fair. A lot of people won't, and I guess that's the joy of talking sports. Let's switch gears real quick. Terry Joseph out, Dwayne Akina in. Joseph just got moved over to the safeties position, and then bam, he's off to the Saints. And then it wasn't very long. I don't know how many days it was. I lose track of days. It wasn't very long. Dwayne Akina gets announced, and I think it was us 3 that were talking Dwayne Akina like 2 or 3 weeks ago. About how he was an analyst and left, and we were kind of saying, yeah, Sark doesn't have to like ever Sark probably won't go back after him, and then all of a sudden he's back. He's the defensive back coach. What do we think about? And I guess he's going to do the safeties, which is what Terry Joseph was going to be doing. He's the architect of DBU. What do we think about that? We like this hire or no?
Oh, I love it. I mean, like I know some people they're worried about recruiting and all that stuff. With the way that we've set up recruiting, I really even if we have a pitfall at safety, I mean it's gonna take it's gonna be a long time before we feel those effects. So I'm fine with getting a guy that has as much wisdom as he does and playing defensive back, getting that guy in the room. And I mean, I don't know. Like I didn't watch too much of Arizona football, but all I know is I feel like Dwayne Akina is going to be one of the guys that when he doesn't have the energy anymore to coach, he's going to take himself out of the game and he's going to be gone. But as long as he's still coaching, that dude's I cannot wait to be in DKR and watch that dude, see if he's as fired up as he was before. Because that you want to talk about an animated character on the sideline.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah, I'm with Nash on that. If I'm giving it a letter grade, I mean I'm almost all the way at an A+, just for a few reasons. Nash mentioned the energy. Texas has lost a lot of energy with Tashard Choice on the sideline. Okay, that type of energy that it's really really important to see. As a player, and really cool for us fans to see. And I didn't think that we could find a guy that immediately would come in and fill that type of void. Akina might be older in life, but he's going to bring that same type of energy. And if there's anyone that knows the type of standard that Texas football can be at, Dwayne understands that. Now, one thing you see a lot of coaches, the game of football, it's changed a ton during our lifetimes, right? And even here recently, it's changed a lot. Akina's done this for a really, really long time, and people still want his services. People still want him around. Johnny Nansen likes the guy. He's showed his ability to adapt in technique and in his teaching. And so, I mean, me personally, I think it's I won't call it a home run, but I mean, it's a really dang good hire. I guess that's pretty sacrilegious to say A+ hire and then not call it a home run, but I'm all aboard. I'm all on board. I love it.
I mean, the way that I also look at this too is one of the cool things is that video clip that I post on Twitter. He's sitting there talking about he's in the film room and he's talking to guys like Quandre Diggs, right? Adrian Phillips. And he's sitting there saying, "Hey, am I going to be talking about you in 10 to 20 years?" Well, we're 10 years away now, So is he going to be talking about? Yeah, he is going to be talking about Quandre Diggs. Yes, he is going to be bringing up Adrian Phillips, who Quandre Diggs, this is cool. He can still point to and say, "Hey, yeah, I still got a guy that's in the NFL right now." Adrian Phillips, this is his first season that he didn't play in the NFL. So I mean, you want to talk about, and then also he has Kenny Vaccaro. He honestly left his NFL career earlier than his body. He had more in the tank, but he wanted to go do the gaming stuff, which is awesome. And I hope that's all going great for him. But I mean, Dwayne Akina can point to NFL success after NFL success. And he can also just point to saying the same thing that he told Quandre Diggs and Adrian Phillips. If these drills work for Vasher and Jammer and all these other guys like Huff, then they're going to work for you too. And I bet you Huff is going to be sitting there going, "Yep." Because, and that's the other thing too. You got Huff in the building. There's just a level of standard that's going to be. These guys know the standard. They know what Texas football needs to be.
And for some of players or maybe recruits or parents of recruits who are like, okay, well, you're putting guys in the league, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Well, just look at Tagario Davis, and he's been a part of his growth and development. And, he just go back one season, you can cover such a big time frame for his body of work. And so that's why I think we should be excited, man. I mean, as quickly as they made that hire, I trust everything that Steve Sarkisian puts his hands on at the moment, to be honest. And as quickly as he made that hire, no questions asked. I'm all for it.
And I think it was you guys hit on all the points. There's nothing else to say about it. He's not that old. He's 68 years old. I mean, it's not like He's walking around
He's
with
a
a
silver
walker.
fox, is what he is.
Yeah,
he's
you know
a-
how
he's a
people
young
on
dude.
Twitter are.
Yeah, he's a young dude. Ghost, I know you got to get out of here, man. Appreciate you for joining tonight. You guys check Ghost out on X, 40 Acre Vibes. You can find him on Twitter as well. And I believe that's at 40 Acre Vibes too, right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Absolutely. I really appreciate you having me on. Sorry cutting it short. If y'all want to hear me rant Texas basketball tonight, we're doing that at 8 o'clock. Going to give some very honest feelings about the state of the basketball program over on the Ghost and Fringe YouTube channel. But as always, I really appreciate it. Good talking with you, Sean and Nash, and look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so back to Dwayne Aquina. Like, just devil's advocate, and I don't think this, but I think there is something maybe to be said about he did put a lot of guys in the NFL, and he does have like his hands on a lot of guys that have still played in the NFL. But it's been a long time since Michael Griffin, Michael Huff. It's been a long time since those guys.
Well,
I wonder if
you also got Justin Reed. I mean, it's like
no. I'm not saying there's not guys. It's just that I don't know.
I know, but I mean,
as
as
quickly
far
as
as like
kids today are like turned off by stuff and move to the next great thing, that would be my only concern, I think. And I'm not even concerned about it. I think everything y'all said is correct. There's going to be a new standard. There's going to be a ton of energy. I don't even know if recruiting's even a problem or even should be considered a problem. I just think maybe there would be other guys out there that could be more tuned in with kids is all I'm saying. And that's just devil's advocate.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just look at it as when you also look at the defensive backs that we've had go in the NFL and then also do well in the NFL, it's been a very safety heavy.
Oh yeah.
Especially under Aquina. And then you look at Reed, Justin Reed, under him at Stanford. This is a guy that I was really upset when we let him walk away. I think he's probably the best safety coach that you're going to find.
Yeah, he may be.
I mean, you're not going to find. You're going to be very hard pressed to find a better resume. And then people that can say, "Oh, well, it's old. It's all old." No, it's consistent. I mean, it was consistent from early 2000 to 2013 to then to 2017. I mean, and then now when it gets gets around some more talented guys, we're probably in all likelihood going to see him, have more drafted guys. Maybe like a guy like Michael Taft and Derek Williams. Yeah, those guys are getting drafted no matter what, right? Like next year, unless there's some major concern or major injury that just tanks stock at the end of the year. So, pinning those guys on him as his success won't be necessarily 100%. It won't be disingenuous, but it won't be genuine.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like, I mean, you could kind of compare him to like Buddy Ryan back in the day in the NFL, like the old guy that had the chops, had the resume. I think Dwayne Aquina is that kind of guy. Now, I don't know if he carries that same kind of sort of aura about him. If like, I don't know if he's really that guy. We're going to find out pretty quick.
I mean, here's the deal. You have Michael Huff, who's a pretty big deal, part of this culture.
Yeah.
These guys, they respect Michael Huff a lot. And I mean, if there's going to be 1 second of lip, Michael Huff's going to shut that down. It'll take one phone call from, I know this doesn't happen, but I mean, they were just from Blake Gideon. To be honest, it's probably going to sound like a broken record.
Like, yeah, you might be right about that.
A lot of what Blake Gideon had teaching is probably what he learned from Coach Aquina. So it'll probably be very similar. But the way that I really just look at this is you got guys like Zealous Hicks coming in. You got guys like Xavier Filsame, who's on the roster. You got guys like Jonah Williams. There's a ton of very young safety talent on this roster. Mm-hmm. You bring in one of the best, if not the best, safety coaches to come in and develop those guys.
Yeah.
Just.
We lost. Yeah, we lost Nash.
Yeah, I'll be back.
So yeah, I think you talk about Dwayne Aquina. You talk about that safety room. I did I did an article on SEC Sports, or excuse me, SECunfiltered.com about the position groups. I rated the defensive position groups headed into spring, and I think that safety group easily the second most talented behind that edge group on that defensive unit for Texas headed into 2025. And if I was ranking them, I'd rank them second. They might wind up being better than second. I mean, they are talented. There's a lot of guys in that defensive backfield on the back end, the back end, that are 5-star, 4-star plus type guys. So, and then you wrap all that up with bringing a guy like Michael Taft back, just kind of the glue guy on the defense. And yeah, I think that room could be really, really special.
I mean, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to beat the 2024 group, but I do kind of tend to agree because I don't know. It's just, I think the experience and talent that Andrew Makuba was, I think a lot of, and it really bothers me to see the lack of attention, national attention that Andrew Makuba gets compared to some of these other guys. Especially like one thing that gets me is like PFF, right? They have Andrew Makuba graded higher than Xavier Watts in a lot of their stuff, but they always put Xavier Watts ahead of Andrew Makuba. But it just drives me crazy. And then you also go like you think he could have easily had 7 interceptions this year. He had probably 3 that were he honestly probably had 2 that were legitimately not a penalty on his behalf, but just interception that was called back from a penalty.
Yeah. No, I think Andrew McCoy, but I think what you're talking about is like the difference between you're talking about the difference between what they actually do on the field, which in a lot of cases, oddly enough, the NFL is not looking so much at, versus their potential, their body type, all that type of stuff. So I used to wonder, like, well, how does that happen? And that's why it happens. It happens because you got guys that, I mean, they bring these guys into this combine and they start measuring. I heard Michael Griffin talking about it this morning on Harge's show on 1300 AM The Zone, the morning kickoff. You guys can watch that every morning from 7 to 9 a.m., by the way, on 1300 AM The Zone, or AM 1300 The Zone. I always screw that name up. But they were talking about that, and they had Michael Griffin on the show, and he was talking about the combine and how they bring them in, and everybody's looking at them and tugging on them, and there's like all these doctors in the room, and they're saying, look this direction and lift your arm this way, and you shouldn't have to do that. That dude can play football, because I watched him do it for the last 14, 15 games this season. That, to me, that's what matters, not how long your fingers are and how wide your arms are. I guess there's got to be something to that, or they wouldn't do it. But it's just really weird to me that like you said, PFF will rank Andrew Makuba higher than this other guy, but then they say in the draft this guy's going to go higher.
Well, I mean,
higher rated player.
For me, the purely on the PFF part is, it's just funny considering their grading system has Andrew Makuba graded higher than Xavier Watts,
right.
But then they will come out in a graphic and they'll say, "Hey, we got Xavier Watts over him." And I mean, it's also one of the like to me, if you were to ask me, right, and this is not any hate to Michael Taft, I think he should be an All-American, absolutely. But if you were to ask me who had the better season as a safety, I'd say 100% it is Andrew Makuba.
Yeah,
I'd say that 10 times out of 10.
That's an argument. Yeah,
I mean, because and it's not just. Like Andrew Makuba to me is just he's an all-around safety. He is an absolute ball hawk that you can get out there, but then also he's a tone setter. And especially when we were getting late in the year, I mean, I was concerned every single game. The second that the second half started, I was like, please, just no targeting. Just like if there was a guy that was, he flirted with the line of the targeting and not targeting line. I've never seen a guy ride that close and not get targeting.
Yeah. Burn orange media,
he was
conspiracy,
constantly
right?
Going. Hard hits, man.
Yeah, great players, both of them, obviously. And just going back to the whole Akina business at the university, I think, again, talented room, really talented coach that's been there and been through a lot, and through a lot of different eras of college football, and is still there. still doing it at the highest levels. I think it's going to be exciting to see what that safety room can do when we kick it off in August. Texas spring football finally sets the schedule. We probably talked about it, the spring game, no spring game thing. They're going to do 15 practices. They're going to start March 25th. And I think this is kind of cool. They're basically going every 2 days. There's a stretch in there where they stretch it out for 4 days, but basically it's every 2 days all the way to where they do their last actual practice, the 24th. And then the 26th going to be like a player appreciation, fan appreciation day, which coincides with Aggie baseball weekend there at the Dish in Austin. So that's going to be exciting. Obviously, Steve Sarkisian kind of cites the amount of games they've played over the last couple seasons, 30 games they've played. We buying that, or we think there's something else? Like, what do we – because I had Eric Henry on the show, and he just straight out said, there's no way these guys think they're going to save their players from getting poached by not having these spring games.
I mean, it's like I basically said the same thing last time we were on here. If a player is on the border of a roster spot, with a guy like Steve Sarkisian, where you're going to have an authentic coach he's not going out there and BSing guys. He's telling them straight up, hey, this is where you're at in the roster, right? This is where you need to be. This is what you need to do to get to where you want to get to. And, that's it. Like when they get to the exit meetings, as soon as a guy has an exit meeting and he hears something that he doesn't want to hear, and if he's a true transfer portal guy, that tape is getting sent to every single coach, every single connection. Hey, this coach, can you send this to this coach? Hey, this person, can you send to that? There's not, and that's also where you're in the gray area because there's no direct communication. These guys aren't directly communicating with coaches. They're not directly, but coaches are aware that they're in the portal and they're aware of their talent. And hey, this guy looks good, right? So, I mean, that stuff's always going to be able to happen. I think that this is an opportunity to look. I know coaches like to have secrecy. Even though you're not showing anything new in a potential spring scrimmage, but I just think that this is just limit injury. I don't know. It's hard to say limit injury because you're still also doing – this is football, right? You can't try and run away from injury because then you'll end up canceling everything and then just simulating games. And that's all we'll be doing. But it's almost every time we get to it, outside of the fan experience, it's a useless game.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
them running around out there in pads is completely useless to us. It doesn't do us any good except for giving us just that little bit of crack. But everybody knows. I mean, look, we mentioned this last time, like the guys like Tariq Milton, they're not going to be able to catch anything. But when you're watching guys like Tariq Milton catch touchdown passes, how much are you going to be able to take away from that and actually apply towards the season?
Fair enough.
I don't know. I just think this just comes down to, hey, this is some old thing that's in the past. We can still have a fan event. We can still run our practices. We can still go full on because even if you also look at it as, hey, well, they're not getting rid of that practice because it was a practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just a practice it really just should have been called an open practice. But they ended up getting called spring games. Really, if you just close that practice, now you can actually run legit stuff. You can run things that, mean more. You can get more work done as opposed to having to do this spring game dance. It's basically just a dance for the fans.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The spring game has always been a fan-driven type of event, I feel like. And because there's really no value to the football team itself. The football team can see everything they want to see from the spring game at a closed practice, like you mentioned. So yeah, it'll be a couple things. I'm interested to see what event gets planned and what that event is like. We will be in town. We were already going to be in town for the Texas A&M baseball series. So we'll be in town. We'll definitely be over there at whatever they have planned. And if you guys don't know by now, Chris Del Conte does it big. And so whatever it is, I think it's going to be really cool. It'll be definitely.
I think it's going to be
event.
a lot more like what they had before spring. Because I mean, honestly, if you, I'm not sure if you've gone to the games before recently under
I haven't been in a
CDC.
while.
So the last few years, what they've been doing is they get a little like an autograph. They set up tents, long tables with a bunch of tents, and there's a bunch of different groups, and you can go through and get autographs and all that stuff. And a lot of times, these guys, you're not able to get the full team, right? You're cut off because they got to go get ready for a spring game.
Right.
And I think that this is one of those things where there's a lot of complaining that, oh, you're taking away the spring game, right? All that stuff. I think that this actually will result in a better fan experience in the spring because, hey, now there's going to be a fan event where the players, they're not having to get pulled away when you're actually getting to have the fan to fan, because now I think even more so, like I talked about how, hey, I remember Roy Williams, right? Well, one of the main moments that I have with Roy Williams is he actually came up and signed my helmet. Well, now you're actually getting more fan to player interaction face to face, right there. I just think that this gives you more opportunity to not have to have these guys pulled away, right? And then
Sure.
also, there's no injury risk. I don't know. I think that this is one of those things that it seems like a bad deal at the very beginning to some people, but once we get through it, we're going to realize, hey, you know what? I think that this actually might be almost an improvement.
Yeah, I mean, we talked. I had Eric Henry on last week for the show, and we talked about the spring game, the possibility of it going away, and just the change factor. Like, people don't want to change. People don't like to change. When people do have to change, they complain about the change. Change isn't always bad. I will miss the spring game just because I like to see the new players. I always got really excited about seeing the guys that just enrolled. Getting to put the pads on before we actually got to a season, but I'll be fine. I'll live. Whatever they put together, I'm sure it'll be a blast. So yeah. What is it? April 26th. April 26th will be the Player Appreciation Day that coincides with Aggie Baseball Week. So that's going to be a big weekend in Austin. So if you're in Austin or can get to Austin, definitely start to make plans for that. That is it for this week's episode of From the Cheap Seats. We generally do this on Thursday. We're not doing it tomorrow night. We're doing it tonight because I'm getting on a plane Friday morning and going to Las Vegas. I'm excited about that. Go check out the Texas Longhorn baseball team at the Las Vegas Classic. Make sure to check out Day Drinking with my special lady friend. We drop that one every Sunday, although we will not be dropping it this Sunday because we'll be in Las Vegas. You can join myself, Mark, and Zach for the bullpen every Monday night, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Mark and Zach going to be holding it down this Monday with the aforementioned Hardball Hard. You'll be on the show. They're going to run it because I'll be on a plane. Find us at find the Horn Takes podcast, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Find Nash at Nash Talks Texas, and you can find his Texas clips on YouTube as well. Lots of good stuff from Nash on Texas clips. And then obviously, again, find the Ghost at 40 Acre Vibes. Find me, Sean Redfearn, at Sean_Redfearn. Like, follow, and subscribe on X. Subscribe, get notified on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Nash, for being here. Welcome.